Hi, my name is Mason. I'm doing Unit 4 as part of the final video project, Engineers and Corporations, Management and Politics. To start with engineers and corporations, engineers have been part of corporations for years now, but prior to that, they were often engineers part of smaller teams or groups, individuals and family firms and proprietorships. Corporate engineering has yielded a lot of accomplishments. They've yielded some technological advances. Examples of this could go back to the Ford company, Henry Ford, and the Model T, making automobiles affordable for all Americans. And then today, obviously, I just threw in picture Apple. Apple would be an example of a big corporation that employs many different kind of engineers. The advantages of being part of a corporation: the ability to pay, the ability to do research. One thing that's a disadvantage, an example of disadvantage, is oftentimes engineers might feel more loyalty to a company or a corporation than they would their engineering profession. Engineers and management. Engineers, more often than other professions, tend to become part of management, which is rare. For an example used in one of the lectures was doctors don't always they're not always expected to become managements. And the reason for the why, I guess, or the pull, would be, better pay, an effort on themselves to improve the organization. And then also, sometimes engineering can be overly routine, and sometimes what they're trained in might become, obsolete. They're good in management in often cases because they have the ability oftentimes to follow budgets. They like anonymity, and they also can follow orders. Next, we'll move on to the relationship between engineers and labor. Oftentimes, the work of engineers can have a direct effect on workers. A lot of times, unfortunately, they cost jobs for the workers because of the technological advances. One example I'd like to get into is the hostility between engineers and workers, where at one point they tried to initiate a scientific management, which it'd be a win-win for engineers and workers, replacing the rule of thumb, train employees better, focus on the repetition of their work. It did not work out as well as originally thought. It was, it strips autonomy and authority from the workers. It cut skilled labor, and workers were treated as maybe dumb, not very intelligent. The picture on the left is John Jervis, would be an example of a worker that rose through the ranks and had appreciation for labor. And then I threw a picture on the right of what I believe is an engineer yelling at a worker. Just their relationship, I can speak from experience, sometimes is strained. Lastly, we go into engineers and politics. Typically, engineers have not been successful in politics, but I wanted to give one probably good example or bad example, depending on how you look at it, is Herbert Hoover. He was nicknamed or called the Great Engineer, and he started out as a mining engineer and became very wealthy at doing that, and then eventually moved to become a consultant. But he held many political offices. In World War I, he helped with food relief in Europe. He eventually became the head of the U.S. Food Administration, Secretary of Commerce, and eventually president. Unfortunately, due to economics of the time and the Great Depression, he's often termed as a poor president, whether that be fair or unfair.